Today is December 1st, 2021.
Please stand for the pledge in a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
You may be seated.
This week's quote is "Leaders are made, they are not born" by Vince Lombardi.
That is a good quote.
Today's birthdays are
Not just today's birthdays, last week's, the 27th and 28th.
27th, Sydney Moody and Celeste Peavy.
28th, Maya Fagerberg and Jordan Summerhour. Happy birthday. Now for announcements.
Make sure you are decorating doors this week with flags.
Tomorrow we have a math benchmark.
December 3rd, we have UAL company.
Video will spotlight is Sam Houston College. Check it out.
And our second video is about an animated filmmaker.
So cool.
Hey guys, thanks for catching up with us at Sam Houston State University. I'm Jessica, and let me introduce you to Mr. Sam Houston himself. He's one of the state's founding fathers and a true Texan. Looking mighty nice.
Sam Houston State University is located in eastern Texas in Huntsville, near the Huntsville State Park, where you can hike, camp, bike, and fish. Campus is just 1 hour north of Houston and 170 miles south of Dallas.
Here in Huntsville, we normally go out to the lake and do canoeing. We also go to the clubs that we have down here. There's actually a lot to do in the Woodlands. There's clubs, there's bars, there's the mall, we have a skating ring down there. There's Market Street, which is like a small square area where they have different shops and stuff that are open there.
SHSU sits on 272 acres of campus surrounded by forests, lakes, and ranches. The campus mall is the main attraction and showcases 2 clock towers, a water fountain, and an alumni garden, making for lots of spaces for students to gather.
Sam Houston is a really wonderful place to be. It's a small community, but it's not too far from a big metropolitan area. I think it's unique. It has a small town flavor to it. Students know one another, professors know one another, and I think it is a great place to come to school.
Sam Houston is represented by 42% boys, 58% girls, and 30% multicultural students from 60 countries. The student-to-faculty ratio is kept at a low 20-1, with an average class size of 30.
The thing about Sam Houston is that it's so wide in variety. You know, there's so much to it. There's lots of Hispanics, and lots of African American and white people, and lots of everything, and everybody just seems to mix. And that, and combined with the way that the teachers are and the classes and the size of the school, makes everything just flow. And it's great. It really is. It's awesome.
Incoming students that graduated in the top 25% of their high school class will need a minimum ACT of 17 and an SAT of 850. There are no minimum requirements if you graduated in the top 10% of your class.
Our admission standards are pretty much in line with those in the rest of the state, and then if you're a transfer student, we have changed our transfer requirements for Fall 09 to be a little bit more stringent, because we realize as they come from the community college, they are prepared with the classes that they do transfer. Our transfer rate is pretty high, and we're continuing to improve in that area as well.
In-state students can expect to pay about $5,000 a year in tuition and fees, while those from out of state will pay closer to $12,000. In addition, residence halls average around $4,000 and meal plans cost about $2,500. SHSU offers 79 bachelor's programs, 54 master's programs, and 5 doctoral programs.
In fact, we just opened a facility. It's a forensic facility, but it's applied forensic science, where the students will be able to actually do research on human bodies decomposing and we want to simulate what a criminal would do to a body. And so we'll have them in the trunk of a car, or we'll have them buried in shallow graves, and students will be able to watch that process and do research.
Some more popular ones among students are business, criminal justice, education, visual and performing arts, and agriculture.
Sam Houston State is the perfect school and the perfect place to study criminal justice. Sam's just minutes away from the Texas Department of Criminal Justice headquarters in Huntsville.
Sam Houston employs 566 full-time and 192 part-time faculty members. 74% hold their doctoral or terminal degree, and 59% are tenured or on the tenured track.
Actually, most of my professors, they're organization chairs, and they're very helpful outside of class. And even inside of class, if you want to stop them during the lecture, they'll stop. Our classes are not big enough where they can't stop for a certain student. They stop for any student that needs help, and then they'll explain it to everybody.
You know, they've always been very happy that you want to talk to them after class. You know, they're just more than excited to be there for you.
The Bearcats compete in NCAA Division I sports, with the exception of football, which competes in Division I AA within the Southland Conference.
Huntsville has plenty of hot, sunny weather, but don't sweat it. Residence Halls has AC and all the comforts of home.
The resident halls are actually very nice. We have a new building that they just built, and it's you share your common area with just one person. You just have to share the bathroom, and you get your own bedroom, and it's like an apartment style. You have a kitchenette area and a living room area. So they're actually very nice now.
Sam Houston has over 200 organizations keeping an active buzz around campus. So be sure to jump in and take advantage of the available fraternities and sororities, hobby clubs, special interests, and professional clubs.
Just a little burger bliss to hit the spot. Here at Sam, you can grab one of the best burgers in town. Fat Boys is just right across the street from campus, so you can grab a bite to eat without being late for class.
So if you're looking for all the success in life and some Texas tradition, then check out Sam Houston State University.
So now that I've seen all of campus, it's time to explore Sam Houston Avenue. Students tell me this is the place to be to hit up all the cool student hangouts, restaurants, and shops, so you know where I'm going. For University TV, I'm Jessica. We're out of here.
I love stop motion because you can touch everything. It's really tactile and physical. And you can really see the hand of the artist and everything, which I appreciate. Even when you can see fingerprints on things, I'm really into that. And it's nice just to have that physical connection with your art. I'm Kirsten Lepore, and I make stop motion animation films. I got started in animation probably around 5th grade, and I think I borrowed my dad's camera and made this film with jelly beans, where I was basically just moving them around before a movie one time. And in school, I studied illustration first, but then I quickly changed my major when I realized how much I loved animation, and then got my degree in experimental animation. Bottle was mainly, it started actually as a material idea. So I just knew I wanted to animate with sand and snow. Actually snow first, and then later on sand came into the picture. But I just wanted to use those materials and play around with them, because I thought, oh, I've never seen anyone animate with snow or with sand, like on a 3-dimensional level like that. So I just took that concept and then sort of built a story around it that sort of needed to be told with those materials. There are a lot of unusual materials that I've used. I mean, of the unusual ones, I'd say like lard and Crisco are probably some of the weirdest ones, especially like lard mixed with sand, specifically for that one film. But I mean, my whole thing is like trying as many materials as I can. I also really love to experiment. So any new material that I find that I think might be animatable, I always like to just like try out. Like the whole thing about stop motion generally is that you need to have as controlled a setup as possible. So everything needs to be able to be completely frozen in time for as long as you need it to be, because you're just doing everything frame by frame. So if something moves, the animator better be in control of that moving. You don't want it to move on its own. Interesting to me that most people think that Bottle is really sad. Most people find the ending of Bottle to be sad, because when I first made it, I did not intend it to be sad at all. And so when I first saw this, like a screening with an audience, everyone like reacted totally differently than I thought they would. And then I was like, oh no, I made a sad film. I totally didn't mean to. But then, I mean, not everyone interprets it that way. I don't interpret it the way most people do. So it was interesting to have a film that has such an open-ended kind of ending. I'd actually prefer it to be that way, so you sort of bring your own experiences to it and see it however you want to. Sweet Dreams was my undergrad thesis project, so I knew I mainly, like again, it kind of started with material challenge, a lot like Bottle, so I wanted to do something with food. I mainly had this image of like Swiss chard and spinach and kale as like foliage in a forest setting, so I really wanted to take that idea and then expand it, and then I slowly came up with this concept that was totally weird that involved a cupcake that had to do with those two worlds. Doing something that had to do with that sort of message about nutrition or just healthy living was definitely important to me, and just maybe like some green themes. I'm definitely a big foodie myself and love to eat everything, but specifically love vegetables and love fresh food. So that was on my mind when I came up with the story as well, to kind of promote that whole idea. All the food was real except for the cupcake and like two of his friends, like the baked goods friends. Those were all, I had to make them out of like this weird foam material, but everything else was real, which ended up being so stinky. And like it was like, so that was a challenge. Speaking of like challenges shooting, it was really kind of a nightmare having all that stuff in a really small room. There was no refrigeration around, so I just like would bring in these vegetables and then they would just wilt in a few hours and just be totally disgusting. And the one thing that was even more telling, which was sort of the opposite situation, was all the other sweet stuff that I used. Like, and I had all these ice cream cones and like Nilla wafers lining the roof and cookies for the floor. Like that was all real stuff. And that stuff lasted a year. Like not refrigerated. It like there's no mold, nothing, no smell. It was just totally like it stayed totally fine for a year. So that was just like a testament to probably how many preservatives were in everything. It was really disgusting. It can be really, really frustrating animating sometimes just because you need such a controlled setup. If anything moves, you usually have to start your shot completely over. When I first started shooting, I definitely knocked over tons of lights and would trip over my tripod, and you totally move the camera. That you know, I've made all the mistakes that everyone makes. I make most things myself. I mean, I think pretty much every prop and set I've made myself, with the exception of one or two on like one freelance project. But it's a good thing and a bad thing. I'm kind of a control freak. I think that's also something that stop motion animators usually have in common. Because we can do everything, we sometimes do, and we drive ourselves a little crazy. But it's fun having your hand in every part of the production. And it's also a lot more your baby that way, I think. You get a little more precious with things sometimes. I mean, for me, I write it, I do the story, I do the boards, I do the props, I do the sets, I do the armatures. Like, you have to know so much about so many different things. You have to know about photography, because you have to shoot the whole thing. You have to know about lighting. You have to know your materials. And then if you're doing all the editing and the sound, which I am too, there's like so much involved. But for me, that's more fun. I like being able to do everything. I think the career dream is just to continue directing. I've had so much fun just kind of being the director and taking on a bunch of different projects. It'd be nice to not do as much of the hard labor as I've been doing, but I know that will come with, bigger budgets and bigger projects and stuff. For now, it's been okay doing everything myself, but yeah, it'll be nice to be a little more hands-off and just be able to make the calls and still kind of achieve what I'm seeing in my head.
And always remember,